you for tuning in. That's it. If you guys want to contribute our topics, have any questions, or just want to tell us what an amazing job we are doing, you can reach out to us at 6364252164. So, for this edition of the Reality Bank, let's talk about this whole main character energy. And of course, we have Johan here back with us. It's great to have you back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Yeah. Yeah, today's topic is also quite interesting. So yeah, good to be back.
Yeah, that's true. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So my very first question is now, what does main character energy, actually mean to you, and how is it different from, just being confident?
So I mean, weird thing is being a Gen Z myself, I discovered this fairly late. The meaning
Okay.
of a main character energy. But then now that I've seen it, I've seen the how crazy it actually this whole main character energy is. It's quite interesting actually.
Hmm.
It's literally what it sounds like. It's like in a movie, there's one person, and the whole movie. There are some movies where it revolves around that one character. Now
Hmm.
imagine you are going to do that in your own life where everything is revolving around you. That is the main character. That's main character energy basically. And
Hmm.
I think it's a lot, but I feel like, like for example, let's say someone is walking into a room and they have to do the presentation, PPT and
Hmm.
presentation. A normal person would, see the crowd, and there's some level of confidence that they have, but
Hmm.
and they're killing it in the presentation, and they're doing very good.
Hmm.
But a person who has the main character energy is absorbing everything around them. They are absorbing the people, the reactions, the heat of the room, and the moment, each and every single moment they're seeing. And I feel like it is there are a lot of people who say it is similar to confidence, but I feel like it is different, because in the end of the day, I feel like main character energy is more about like empowerment. It's more
Hmm.
about you feeling good, about you, more than being confident in what you do. I think
Hmm.
confident does plays a big role. I think confident is that soul inside that is necessary, but
Hmm.
I don't think it's necessarily the confidence that we know, like being the person who stands out in front and does things like that, that typically what people would consider confident, right? Like being the guy
Hmm.
in the class who stands and stands up for what he what they're right. And
Hmm.
the typical, like I will stand and do, and that difference of confidence, I think it is more about like an internal sort of a thing. So I think that's why it is different. I don't think it is similar to confidence that the people know. It is more about a person from the inside, what they are going through and how they're absorbing everything in their in their life. And it's quite interesting actually, when you see all this, the level of positivity that these people have in their life that they're trying to bring in. And as when you're in a world of social media where everyone are trying to be realistic, they're trying to be, that these things don't work out this way. You have a bunch of people who go through, embrace this whole main character energy, where they it can be something as simple as going to, let's say, a supermarket, and the person opens the door for them, and that will
Hmm.
be a huge that'll be huge for them. And and although it seems very like hilarious at times, but it's actually, I find it in a way very sweet also, that these people are embracing all these things in their life so much, bro. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, you are right. Like it's interesting to see such people but sometimes it does go like over the top, like over the spectrum where
Mm,
we say it like like they become so emotionally involved in everything. Like if
mm.
let's say, like as you said, a person opens the door and they're just so happy like when they're entering the supermarket, and now imagine the next day they come in and the same person doesn't open the door. What are they going to feel? They're gonna be like, damn, now this guy doesn't
Hmm.
support my
Well,
energy or
that's the thing.
something.
That's the thing about the main character energy, right? I don't think like they, whatever is happening in their life, they would
Hmm.
try to see, the bigger picture of it. Like for
Yeah.
example, okay, I'll tell you, like the person is not opening the door, but they're opening the door. There's just like a lot of like discount right in front of their eyes. Now they
Yeah.
will see that, and that is going to be a different sort of a thing. Or
Mm-hmm.
they're going to walk into a place where things are very interesting in their eyes. So whatever is interesting to their eyes, and that is the whole thing. And I feel like the
Hmm.
whole thing of going over, no, like I feel like, is it, do they know that sometimes it's going over for them? That's the
I
whole thing.
I don't think they do actually,
Yeah,
because like it's just so wired in the brain. Like, all of us,
yeah.
we have that main character moment. Say we do something very like funny enough. Like my thing only comes like actually when I've actually achieved something good,
Hmm.
like something that I consider, that is quite a difficult thing to achieve. That's when it
Hmm.
starts kicking in, and that's when, then I go full blown. I was like, yeah, you know what, it's a great achievement or something like that. But then again, like in part of failures and all, like I seen some people get like way too dramatic. They're like, oh, like this happened, that happened, and then I don't know why, how are they wired. Actually, they
Hmm.
just go like completely ghost for
Hmm.
3 months, and then they come back
Hmm.
again, and then they're like, you know what, I decided to do this, I decided to do that, and look at me, I've changed my life and all.
So
It's
yeah, so
it's
that's the thing, right? Like
yeah.
something like some sort of a moment you mentioned like this, where if someone
Mhm.
failed, it is emotional for a person. So and like like I've seen this one caption a lot also on
Mm.
online, that is, I'm in my main character era, my
Yeah,
main
yeah,
character energy mode, and
yeah.
like I don't know like that. So that's the thing. I don't know if someone would feel like that when something negative is going on. I'm not very
Mhm.
sure about that, because I don't know if I can consider myself as a main character energy sort of a person.
Okay.
I want to believe that I'm in the middle. Like I'm
Mhm.
not entirely into it, but
Mhm.
then other people, I think there's a part of me where like maybe other people should tell if I am like that. But also, the thing is like this whole thing of seeing everything in the the nature and absorbing and everything. That's
Mhm.
technically that's what artists do, right? I mean,
Yeah,
if you talk
yeah.
like if you're talking about like let's say a story, and like they will talk about like what they observed and maybe in real life, and drawing out inspirations from that. That's basically stand-up comedy, right? They are
Mhm.
telling from what they're observing with things around them. But I think the difference is artists are doing all of that to it is for their art. All those observations that they're doing, it is for their art. But I think it goes two ways. I think there might be an artist who I think it's just naturally how things are flowing with how things are going on. If
Yeah.
suddenly something naturally for them clicks, and I think that will be an inspiration for them in their art. But then
Mhm.
there might be artists, every second of their life, just like a main character energy person, they're trying to absorb everything around them. A coffee
Mhm.
shop, and they're having a sip, and they saw people outside, and how that that became a big part of their life. And the thing is, like every single thing that they're observing, it is supposed to benefit them more than more than them thinking, how am I in this situation, or more than thinking about the other person. It is more about how they are embracing their life in all of this. So I think
Yeah.
it is them looking at the bigger picture, and for them it is them being number one in the head. And I think the fact that an artist does it to basically inspire, to take inspiration for their art, but this is like almost like full-time career for them, main character energy people.
Yeah, that's true. Now, moving on to the next question. Now, what cultural or social reasons do you think that led to the rise of the terms main character energy? And what do they say about, how we see ourselves today?
It's very interesting with this question, because I feel like this whole thing of main character energy, I don't think it is something particular to our generation. I feel like I'm sure people of the earlier generations, millennials, Gen X, the baby boomers, I'm sure their generation also have gone through this. I'm sure they also have met people like that. Like for example, I have you seen this Hindi movie Jab We Met?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you know the lead in that, right? Her name is Geet. Karina Kapoor
Mhm.
plays the lead in that. She
Mhm.
is the poster girl for this whole main character energy, basically.
Mhm.
So, and she is just enjoying everything in there, in the at least the first half of the movie. She's just enjoying and embracing every single thing in her life. And that's, and millennials really loved that character. That's like one of the most loved characters of that whole 2000s Bollywood era, and millennials
Mhm.
really love that character. And and the thing is, like I've seen a lot of these podcasts where people also will tell, I know a girl who is exactly like her, like Geet. And so
Mhm.
I don't think it's like a Gen Z thing. I think it's always been there. But I think this whole term main character energy, that is something that's been coined by Gen Zs, I feel. So this word.
Mhm.
And also I feel like social media, plays a bigger role in this. I think because of seeing how everything is around, right? I think that
Mhm.
plays I think that plays a bigger role in them trying to find out, to get out of that whole world, and trying to bring as much as confidence, not confidence, empowerment within themselves, to carry on with their, with everything that is going on in their lives. So I
Mhm.
think this whole thing of, like, for example, I think this whole daily observation in your life, and how, you're being blessed by, every single thing that is going on with this whole main character energy. I think it's a load of positivity. I think it also has to do with, what is going on in a person's life, that, that they sort of want to, be in, like, in this main character energy. My, like, the only thing is for me is, like, I want to know how natural and authentic this whole main character energy is it
Mhm.
something that you're trying to do, or is it something that's naturally, that's just how you are as a person? And,
Mhm.
like, if you are naturally, that's just how you are as a person, I honestly think that's quite impossible. I don't think there's anyone who can naturally be so, just try to observe everything in their life and just be. I think it
Mhm.
is a decision that the person is intentionally making for their own, for their life. and
Yeah.
uh, and there's nothing wrong in it. There is one world where people just want to be, trying to be very realistic, trying to be, this whole half empty glass type of people, where they're like, this is not right. Okay, that's just how the way you look at things, nothing is wrong in that. But then why do you want to bash someone who's, doesn't want to look at things the way you want to look at?
Yeah. Yeah.
They want to see things in a very, in a very different way, and they are embracing it. And, the thing is, I feel like mentally it is also, I think it quite helps these people, and
Mhm.
I feel like that whole mental health thing plays a big role in it, because, I don't know if someone is trying to, uh, my only fear is, I don't want if this is like an escapism for some people, because if you are,
Mhm.
yeah, you're just trying to cover up all the mentally how things are going on for you by doing like this, that's not, that's really not going to help. But overall, instead of that, if you're willing to face those sort of, difficult moments in your life, and still going through that, passing on with that, and trying to embrace, whatever is going on, that is main character energy, and
Mhm.
like, if you're really if you're really trying to cover up with things going on in your life, that's just you trying to be positive. So I think even the whole
Yeah.
thing of someone being positive and happy, this whole main character energy, that also is a different, meaning, I feel.
Yeah, that's true. Like, I personally feel like the main whole rise to it, like where it's become very prominent nowadays, it just, I mean, social media is a very, very good catalyst for that. Like, we see
Mm.
many people, like, of course, everyone has watched Spider-Man movies, everyone watched Marvel series, and all of that, and they go
Hmm.
to these various points, like nice scenic views, or maybe a very good place to click photos, and they
Hmm.
give like different poses of these certain characters.
Hmm.
And I don't know, like, and then they write the caption, feeling like this certain character, feeling like this certain character,
Hmm.
basically they're just doing exactly that,
Hmm.
which a lot of fan people do. But
Hmm.
then again, like, I really don't understand like where it actually comes from. Is it like, does it happen, while seeing somebody else, like a fictional character, or maybe a person in real life, or does the person think themselves and they're like, what, yeah,
Hmm.
I'm the main character of my story, and all of you are like my side characters or
Hmm.
support staff, if
Hmm.
they'd like to put it in that way.
Hmm.
I don't get it, like, how does it actually come into play? Like, maybe certain events do happen that lead them to think like that,
Hmm.
because, like, as you said, like, I don't think like people are just born with that energy. Takes a
Yeah, yeah.
lot of it takes a lot of various experiences to lead them to think that way. Because
Hmm.
when people are born just like that, like, until like you're surrounded with people who are the same kind, I
Hmm.
don't think it really happens, and that situation is in a very, very minimalistic chance of it
Yeah.
happening, to be honest.
I feel like social media also has a big, like, okay, like, for example, like, we have spoken, like, about how people are on social media, how they are basically, who this whole thing of how people are very they feel very isolated by, in Instagram, looking at other people's stories, something that we have spoken about a lot. I think that anxiety, I think that isolation, I think that whole thing of seeing how things are going around in social media, and also I feel like how cruel things are going on in this world, with
Yeah.
how, with all the things that are going on. I think it is just another way of them to, look at things the better, the better way, and it is for their
Hmm.
benefit. They are
Hmm.
doing it for themselves. And not necessarily these are, bright, positive sort of people. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be that. It is just more about them than it is for the other people. So a
Hmm.
person who, who has this whole main character energy thing, my whole thing is like, one, in social media, if you're going to post things like main character energy, main character era, I don't I don't know what is like how honest a person is, but I feel like
Hmm.
if someone is actually embracing themselves, this whole concept of a main character energy, I think any small points in their life can be inspiration. It can be, even from seeing another person who is like that. And
Hmm.
also, like, for example, in the that movie I mentioned, Jab We Met, she was like an inspiration to a lot of girls, a lot
Hmm.
of, not just girls, people in general. A lot of people wanted to be like her in life. and
Hmm.
uh, and I think that inspiration that they, draw it. So I think there might be some sort of an event or some incident that took place in their life where they want to see things like this in a different perspective. Or, it is maybe it's just something there within them that, they don't know how to figure out. And they
Yeah.
finally, I think that whole thing of embracing themselves, who doesn't want to be, embrace themselves, bro? I think everyone would like to be like that. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's just figuring it out is the difficult part. And I
Hmm.
think, like, with everything that is going on, it is very hard for you to look at things at the bigger picture and think about, you, yeah, like,
Hmm.
with everything that is going on. Like, for example, let's say you're going your traffic, like Bangalore traffic, for example. I want to know how a main character energy person will be reacting when they say when 1 hour they're stuck in the traffic, because I am absolutely angry when I'm on that road. I am just annoyed when I'm seeing people just randomly cross, randomly cut,
Yeah.
people are
Yeah.
randomly walking, people overtake, in such a dangerous place. I just get angry, but I want to know how a main character energy person would react, to such sort of a things. So
Hmm.
I think it is just that whole, I think that whole ability to look at, the things that are going on in their life and how it's going to benefit, how it's benefiting them, how it's internally making them happier. I think that is what, main character energy is. So I feel like, just like you said, nobody knows really. I think it is nobody knows really what is the inspiration, but I think it is a different answer for anybody. It can be some sort of an entertainment that they had consumed, through which, that they have this, or maybe they saw a person in real life through which they have consumed it. But I
Hmm.
think when it comes to like the social media playing a bigger role, I think it is seeing everything that is going on, and they don't, and it might affect them, like negatively,
Yeah.
who knows. But it's just, I think in a bigger picture, I think it is, they're still willing to go through that, tough, like, for example, they're seeing all these stories and they're getting very isolated. I'm
Hmm.
sure, I don't think they're going to completely deny it and neglect that. They will still, see all that, but they will go through it, but then they'll see the next bigger picture, what is going on, and try, helping themselves in that, moment that is going on in their life, to get to, to finally get out of that whole feeling of isolation. And
Hmm.
it is the only tricky thing is, I don't know if it is to to basically cover that whole feeling of isolated, and just having this in your mind, or you're actually gotten over that whole feeling of isolation and you are embracing everything in your life. I think if you have completely, that what I felt made you feel isolated, by seeing
Hmm.
those insta stories, if you still feel that, I don't know if you're in the main character energy. If you really are, you would have you wouldn't, you would have gotten over that stage and tried to look at the bigger picture. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Now, earlier we did speak about, two different sides of the spectrum, which leads me to my third question. Now, can, chasing main character energy become toxic, and like, can it lead to, self obsession?
So that's the whole thing. One word that a lot of people use is this whole thing of narcissism, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
people love using that word now for everything. Someone likes talks, someone appreciates themselves a little bit, they're narcissistic people. I don't get that.
Yeah.
And I don't, like. Yes, I mean, I think that can be. I think that with, with you trying to, trying to embrace things about yourself and trying to find, how it is making you, how the moment is about you, with everything that is surrounding you. Like for example, I'm not a main character energy person, but I'm sitting over here. I'm talking to a person. People are watching me, and there's lights and cameras all are for me. I feel amazing. That's what a main character energy person probably might be feeling, but this whole thing of, people thinking it is very selfish. There is
Mm,
nothing wrong in self love. I don't, I think the fact that someone, is trying to figure out what's best for them. I think the
mhm.
fact that someone is trying to help themselves to, think about themselves, there is nothing wrong in that. That's absolutely
Yeah.
right, fine to be, thinking. But I think this whole thing about you trying to, care about you, which is important, but when you're lost in that whole world of caring about you, that you have become negligent about a lot of other things. I think that
Mm,
is the scary part. And I think, that's what, like for example, we recently, I was working on this one podcast where this one person was talking about, he has this one he has an organization where he helps the destitutes. And
mhm,
they and and he also talks about like how when you see a person who is struggling, going and helping them, like it's a most human thing to not, to go and hesitate in helping them. It's a human thing, instantly to not think like that. But still, there are people who are willing to, to help in that way. Now the whole thing is, now the first thing is they're thinking about is about them, instead of helping that person. and
mhm,
and and now if you, and this is something that you might criticize for another person doing it, but if you are in that same situation, you yourself might be doing it. and
mhm,
and I think, and that whole thing, although it's not a, it's a, I think you should help people out, instead of just walking away. But it is the first thing that is coming to your mind is, more of, is about you.
mhm,
It's about you going and helping out. It's somewhat, so that sort of a hesitation, that is you thinking about you first. And there's
mhm,
nothing, and it's just an instant, it's a very natural thing, for a person to think about them first in any sort of a situation. Like, for example, let's just say, someone has to work overnight in an office. Like, now are they going to think about, them working overnight? And of course they will think, like, for them, they know they have to complete the work and deadlines. But working
mhm,
overnight, they may not like it. But the fact that they're not liking it and they're not happy with it, why is the reason? Despite knowing the deadlines to be completed, they are, because they are not happy with it, so they are thinking
mm.
about themselves again first. So
Yeah.
every single thing in your life, first is you do think about yourself first in a lot of these situations. There's nothing, it's the most natural thing about thinking about your position first,
Mhm,
and then, you think about, about the other things. So I think, the fact that this whole thing about main character energy is they're embracing entirely about themselves. So,
mhm,
so I don't know how much it is really about negligent, or being about very arrogant, or being overconfident to the point it's affecting others. I think it is just for them, for their own mind to be, it is just for them to help their own mind, for their life to work out better. But I'm
mm,
sure, but I don't think it is basically pushing, the other things in the life and neglecting that is not what they're doing. It is seeing what is happening in their life and absorbing it to make things better for them, not to make things worse for the others. And it's
yeah.
not and it's a very natural process, this whole main character energy. If someone is really embracing all of it, it is natural for them to do all of that. And I
Mhm,
think, because, but I think the fact that the moment they become very open about it, the moment they openly talk about it, I think that's when people will start thinking this person is thinking too much about themselves. This person
mhm,
is, the word narcissistic that I mentioned, that they're thinking. But I think,
mhm,
in some, if you look at the most basic thing in humans, thinking about themselves is one of the, it's a very natural thing. Thinking
mm,
about you is the first thing that does come to your mind, so there's nothing wrong in it. But I think it's just, there's a part of me where I'm like, it's just people are unnecessarily judging. Sometimes it might, someone who's become selfish about this, someone who's not thinking about another person in a situation. I
Hmm,
personally don't think that person is going through what people call about with this whole main character energy. It
hmm,
is
hmm, hmm,
nothing to do with how their perception about other people are, and none of that. It is for themselves. So
hmm,
I think a lot of people will mistake that arrogance for self love. I think those are
hmm,
two
hmm.
different things.
Yeah, yeah. Also, when you spoke about the selfish part, like I was like, okay, yeah, you are right on that, because think about it, like just say a person, like say a poor person comes and they ask for money, like near a signal, or you're sitting in a park or something like that, and we just happen to be sitting at the side, and then we just look and the person doesn't give anything. Oh, he just walks away. Now for us it may be like, okay, yeah, that person has everything. He had good clothes, he has food, he has shelter, obviously.
Mm,
That's how it seems to us, but to him it'll be like a whole different thing. Who knows what he could be going through? He could have lost his
yeah, yeah.
job, he could have lost his property, he could have lost a case, something like that. Or he could have
Mm,
even lost a loved one. It could be
mm,
various things.
mm,
And we can't just be so quick to judge people, like just based on something like that, because
mm,
as they say, there's two sides to a coin, right? So there's two
mm,
sides to every story. We can't just instantly just jump in and judge, like, okay, yeah, he's a bad person, he's
mm,
selfish, he's this, he's that,
mm,
and whatever terms people like to use.
mm,
Because at the end of the day, we are no one to judge them, because most probably we'll exactly do the same thing what he did if we were in his situation. So we
yeah,
can't
that's the
really,
thing.
yeah, so we can't really put that judgment thing on it. And
Mm,
I don't think, like, I mean, not to that extent, like people who are mainly into this main character energy, sometimes it does turn toxic, but again, it depends on person to person. Like, let's just say a person is brought up a certain way, and then they suddenly get this whole influx of main character energy,
mm,
and they have two choices. Like, what does what does every Marvel movie say? Like, with great power comes great responsibility,
mm,
right?
mm,
Yeah, so it just matters how they're going to take it. They can take it in a
mm,
positive way and go in a positive path, or they can take it in a negative way and go down a negative path.
mm,
And I mean, that's where narcissists are born. That's a whole different story. But
mm,
people are taking, like, the right path, just looking at everything positively, just going according to
mm,
life, like, no
mm,
matter what negative stuff hits them, like it could be anything, and they just
mm,
instantly think, okay, let's look at the positive. Things happened because of this. Now what can I
mm,
do to avoid it? That way it's a whole different thing. It actually helps develop your life a lot more, instead of
mm,
just sitting and thinking, oh gosh, this happened to me, now what should I do, that kind of thing. Nah, like, to be honest, I don't understand, like, why people you know kind of refer this main character energy to narcissism, because there's again two different spectrums, as I told earlier. And majority of these main character people, they're like mostly of a positive attitude. They don't have
mm,
anything like selfish about themselves. And there are few of them which we have seen, all of us would have seen that, but
mm,
then we can't mix in the minority with the majority and say, like, yeah, just because the minority is bad and
mm,
they are showing narcissism, they are being toxic and all, we can't say the majority of the main character energy people are the same, right?
mm. And
So
also, I like the thing is like main character energy being positive. Like I don't know how much necessarily it is just observe, looking and embracing the positive things in their life. I think
Mhm.
it also, I think it also can be through like some dark moment that they're going through in their
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
And I think just and that also comes in with embracement. I think it's just acceptance, with everything that is going on with their lives. And again, there, like we can't deny the fact that, in the end of the day, main character energy, they are thinking about themselves as the first priority. And
Mhm.
and that's just a way of how they are and how they look at perceive things. But I think even with the negative things that are going on in their life, I think a person who is not, necessary, who's a main character energy person, I don't think it will somewhat. I don't think that has anything to do with their relationship with other people, and how it sort of affects them and how they treat others. A narcissistic person treats another person wrong, and
Mhm.
a narcissistic person's decisions affect other people's lives, and that's
Yeah.
where you see the narcissism. How they are willing to ruin things for others to make things better, better for themselves. That's where
Hmm.
narcissism comes. But when this is not a person who's just seeing everything that's around them and trying to make things better, better in their lives, to move on, and look at the, just look at the bigger picture, moving on from everything that is going on in their life. So I don't know if the thing is, I'm not sure if main character energy is necessarily being positive. I think even with negative things that's going on in their life, I think they will embrace the negativity as well.
Yeah, that's true. So, any final thoughts on the entire topic?
uh, I think we've spoken about it quite long enough, and I think it's the thing is, I think it's good. I mean, the thing is, the thing about the main character energy is it's a very natural thing. So I don't
Hmm.
think you can ever like when you fake it, people can figure it out that you're faking it,
Yeah.
and when you're faking, and faking it, if I don't know if it's like a way of coping mechanism for you, because you're that, for the fact that you're faking it, but I don't know how helpful that really is, for
Hmm.
someone who fakes that sort of a thing. But I think it's, if it's something naturally that you are able to figure out, and able to look at things that way, I think it is something, it's a great way to keep yourself happy and embrace yourself. Because in the end of the day, like, why like I mean, I don't think it's a relation to this, but like say, why does someone go to a therapist? It is for their own mental health, right? It is to
Yeah.
make, it is for their own thing, and that is self love in the end of the day. And
Hmm.
it is them putting a lot of effort and investing on, something to make themselves better, which will
Yeah.
eventually help, their other things better, which is why people talk about mental health. Because if your mental health is, if you are working on your mental health as well, that ends up improving your other things in your life as well, right? So I
Hmm.
think, and that is self love in the end of the day. So I think this is, I feel like, main character energy, if you're genuine about it, it is self love. And I think it's the most natural thing, self love. So nothing is wrong in that.
Yeah, that's true. And with that said, that officially brings us to the end of today's show. A huge thank you to John for joining today's show.
Thank you for calling me. It was good.
Thank you so much. Now, remember, guys, we air on Mondays at 4:30 p.m. That's it. If you guys want to contribute our topics, have anything to say, or just want to tell us what an amazing job we are doing, you can reach out to us at 6364252164. And a huge thank you to our listeners for tuning into this edition of The Reality Bang, your weekly dose of your power, brought to you by FIBA Online. This is RJ Johan. Hope you have an amazing week, and I will see you next Monday.